So,
No, I start.
okay.
I got my own back. Just hold it. I'll hold it though. Yeah, I didn't mean to throw him under the bus like that. So as far as this album is concerned, I'm I'm a little bit at odds with it. Like I think in some aspects it's a good project, but then in others it's quite wanting, you know. And I think I'll elaborate on it further. But for those reasons, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. I could have gone less, but I thought, in respect of the album and what he's trying to do, I think it's important to give appreciation when it's due. So that's me for now.
Hello, my name is Dami, and I definitely agree with what Jordan has said. I just feel like the album as a whole, it probably has its high moments and it has its low moments as well. I actually I'm gonna give it a 3.5, and it could actually go to a 3. It could be a lot better. I feel there was probably a bit too much filler for my liking, and yeah, I actually think Dave is a really good like lyricist, but as an album, I just didn't feel it that much.
Hi, I'm Rose. I haven't made my mind up. There's a bit of a contention. Basically, I'm notoriously like a Dave hater, which has been a running theme. But I need to tell you why. I'm actually rooting for Dave, basically. When I'm a teacher, and when I first started teaching in the first school I taught at, the kids started going mental because there was someone outside the door. And I was like, what's wrong with you? We'll sit down. And then a teacher comes in and she's like, oh, just let the kids come out. They're really excited. And they're like, oh, miss, it's Santan Dave. It's Santan Dave. Turns out that he was at the school that I taught at the year before. So I was like, I called you and I was like, oh, do you know someone called Dave Santander or something? Yeah. And so he explained who he was and whatnot. And I was like, that's so sick. Like, I'm rooting for him, you know. Like, I want to see him do well. He was in my classroom. He went to the school I teach at. Like, I want him to be an aspiration for the kids that I teach and stuff like that. But I'm giving this album a 2.5, just because I feel like he's so brave to address all the things that you were talking about, you know, the mental health, the issues that we're facing, that he's facing, and at such a young age. But I feel like his lyricism kind of lets him down sometimes. So he'll say some really profound lyrics, and then in the next track, he'll just talk nonsense. And that's what really just, like, I agree with Liam, he hasn't quite got there yet. So 2.5.
Hi everyone, I'm Jojo. I'd probably give this album somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4. And I'm not a Dave fan. Like, my boys always get on to me about it. More time I don't listen to this guy. But this album, when I actually listened to it, it actually kind of won me over. I liked the tune that had gigs, gets, like the heavyweights on it. That I think that was the song that made me actually see, you know, I can actually rock with this album. And it has a Wizkid feature, Snow Allegro. I like the varied sounds. There is a bit of filler on it. So I think that is one of the downsides of it, but I would say this album kind of won me over with Dave, so somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4 for me.
I think I'm going to give it a 0.25 score like yourselves over here and give it 3.75 because I think it's very good lyrics. I think what he's kind of talking about, the stuff around trauma, pain, family stuff, the stuff around looking himself in the mirror, the stuff around who he is as a person. I think that's really deep stuff that a lot of other rappers may not communicate, especially someone with a platform like he has, to actually like use that in a kind of way that might talk about deep concepts, you know, things that may be more difficult to talk about. And I think he's very courageous to be able to do that kind of stuff. I think a lot of rappers wouldn't be able to do that in the same platform, given the kind of scope, like probably millions of people that listen to him ultimately. So yeah, I think that's why I'd give it quite high. But maybe what detracts from it is that conceptually as an album doesn't really work. I don't think there's some sort of theme or like thing that holds it together. I like the title of the album, but I don't think that's necessarily represented in the tracks. because some of them are like fillers and they're speaking to pop music or chart music or whatever it is. So yeah, I think that's why I wouldn't give it as high as a 4.
All right. Hi guys, I'm Alex. I'm from Germany. Cheers. I've listened to the album before. I knew it before. I liked it before. Nothing changed for me. I like Dave as an artist, as an actor, as an overall human being. I appreciate this album very much. I love his lyrical ability. Also like the changes during the album, like going from club songs into deep songs, into talking about stuff with nice, and then like going again to other stuff. So for me, I would say it's a strong 4.
Hi, I'm Kamari. I would give this album, I'd say a 4. I like that he worked with a variety of different artists. I really like Psychodrama, and I feel like this album had a lot more emotion in it as well, and we found out a little bit more about him and his background. So I really enjoyed it. Maybe more than Psychodrama, I think, which is a bit controversial. But yeah, so 4.
Hi everyone, my name's Undu. This one's a difficult one, but I'm going to relate it to kind of uni grades. So I'm going to give him a 2.9 recurring. So like, it's one of those ones where he's got a 2-1, but I want him to know that it could have gone to a 2-2 very easily, because the way I see it with Dave is his talent is unquestionable. Like, no one can talk about his talent. And he's almost playing in a kind of lonesome field in the UK, where at the age of 23, he's built up what he's built up. And there's not really anyone who can be put in a similar category to him in terms of his lyrical ability, whilst also making bangers that chart and all of those kinds of things. But my problem is that we use age as a reason for him to not do stuff, which I think is quite simple little tweaks. So people were talking about the fact that the album doesn't have a like consistency, but in this album and Psychodrama, he tried to add these little skits that just don't work. So like, he's obviously trying to build a concept album. Like, I'm a very big, like for me, College Dropout is the best album like ever made. And it's because you simply cannot skip a song. You can't skip a skit. You can't do it. Like, otherwise you're not listening to the album in its entirety. And Dave is trying to do that, and it's not working because I don't know if he's not thinking it through or he's getting tired. It's obviously a difficult craft. But literally listening to that album again, you get to a point in like song 5 and it's as if he's exhausted. Like, he's put all his life and soul into songs 1 to 5, and then it just falls off a cliff. And it's unfair because if he didn't try to do the concept, I probably would have said 3.5 to a 4, because the high points are just ridiculously high. But because he is so talented, I want him to know you're on a 2-1, just about. Like, so, yeah, 2.9 right there.
My name's Serena. I would probably give the album... Is it? You can hear me? Okay. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I don't know if that's me being biased, because I like Dave and his music, but kind of for the same reasons as Alex. I feel like it caters to different audiences. It's not just monotone, it's got like different levels, which I appreciate. So I give it a 4.
Hey everyone, I'm Liam. I would give this album a 2.5 out of 5. And the reason I would give it a 2.5 out of 5 is especially because of the points that were just made about it almost sounding like spoken word in parts. Like, I think he's very lyrical, and we know that he's really lyrical, and we respect and rate him because of his lyrics. But you also have to combine that with the music as a whole, and I feel like he strips back the beats so that like the lyrics really shine through, to the point where like one of the songs is like 9 minutes and is a cappella in parts. you might like that if you're into like the spoken word thing, but me personally, I didn't really feel it at all. Like I respect that he's digging into those deeper topics and shining a light on things, but I think the song has to work on like every level, where the song bangs and then there's depth to it as well. So I respect Dave. I think he's gonna eventually make like a great album, but I don't think this one was. I don't think this one was executed. Like, I like the skits and stuff. He's thoughtful about it, and he will do that. But it's not this one.
Hi, I'm Idris. I'm a fan of Dave. Really love his previous album as well. So this album, I personally feel like I saw where he was trying to go. I could see the vision, but I feel like he did not execute it properly. And there's some really high moments in there, and then some really like disappointing lows as well. So I'll give it a 3.25 as opposed to 3.5. Just because I acknowledge what he's trying to do, but at the same time, yeah, there was just some moments in there that I felt like that really it undermined the whole album for me. So yeah.
Hi, my name's Ennie. I think I would give this album a 3.5. I had listened to this album before today, and while I do enjoy it, I definitely note that I think there are some filler tracks that make it a bit monotonous at times, and I think they are fillers that aren't necessarily needed. But I do enjoy his emotional rawness, as well as the upbeat songs as well. But I feel like it's maybe not an album, say, I don't know, in a year's time, maybe that I'd go back to.
My name's Sam. I'm going to score this album a 4. Generally just because I like it. I'm very basic in, do I like it, do I not like it? And I think there's a lot going on in that album. But I think it kind of like sort of captures there's a lot going on in all of us at the same time. And like being able to articulate that on one body of work is quite difficult. I think he tried to do it, and I get it, like it's an impossible task. But yeah, I appreciate how challenging this album was in bits, how fun it is in bits, and I think I don't know how old Dave is, like young, late 20s, isn't it? So
he's like 23.
Young 20s, early 20s. That's it. It's late for me. I need to go to bed. And I just always a bit astounded at how like phenomenally he can articulate himself for someone so young. And I think like I'm always in awe of that when I listen to him. So I find it difficult to criticize him after that because he's still a baby in this thing. So yeah.
Hi, my name's Maya. I rate Dave as overall as an artist. I've been listening to him since like 2016, so I feel like I am slightly biased when it comes to his work now. I would give this a solid 4/4.1 out of 5. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but as a 23-year-old young man, I just feel like he's so intellectual and he's so conscious. He's so eloquent and like well-spoken, and I rate that so highly. I feel like he's a breath of fresh air in the UK rap scene, definitely, with the things that he talks about. So like I do really rate him, and I did like the album a lot actually. I feel like well connected to it, so yeah.
Hi everyone, so I'm Mike. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big follower of grime music, but I do remember when Dave had his first hit about 4 years back, and I have to say, he is someone who is definitely one to watch. I liked the storytelling content on this particular album. Personally, I'm gonna give it a 4. You know, if he could have just maybe had some features from people from outside of the grime music genre, just to show him how he's evolved as an artist. I'm so sorry about it. I should be embarrassed, shouldn't I? I got it wrong.
Everyone gets their turn to speak.
So I apologize for getting it wrong, but nonetheless, I love how far he's come as an artist in the last 4 years. So, yeah, definitely one to watch.
I like Dave, not to be biased, we're from the same area, but what's it called? I like that the end, like I was sitting down listening with my eyes closed, but I was listening and it kind of sounded like a spoken word. Like, you know, when you listen. I don't know if anyone's been to like a spoken word event, and like it takes you through a story, like that, things like that. So that's what I really liked about it.
Hi, my name's Oge. What would I give the album? Fuck, I'd give it a 3. I'd give it a 3 because I think this is the second time I've listened to it in its entirety, you know. And for me, like, the mark of a great or good album is one that you just can't skip a single track. Very lyrical, good British Nigerian lad, just like myself. But yeah, that's what I'll give it. 3.
Hi, my name is Kyra. I will give this album a 4. Now, this could be me being quite biased because I like Dave and I like how he is. And I think, I don't know who was saying this earlier, but the fact that he's really young and he has this emotional rawness about him and he's able to express that regardless of how well put together it is, I think he's done really well putting that all together. So, yeah, that's it.
Hi, I'm Shanice. I would give this a 3.5, I think. I've not listened to much Dave at all, hadn't heard this album before today, so I was coming in quite fresh. I think my perception of Dave was that he was a very, like, I don't know, conscious rapper, or was speaking about a lot of, like, social topics. And like someone said earlier, I've not really been in the headspace for that, so I've kind of avoided it. So I personally liked the fact that it did mix in some lighter topics. I like that I could speak about more heavy topics, real topics, but also mixing in like some more joyful elements of Black British life. So yeah, I quite liked some of the marks that people said they didn't like, with it not having like a one strong theme throughout.
Hi, my name's Hyle. I feel very similarly to my friend Undu and to Liam. I'm gonna go higher than both Undu and Liam though. Liam gave him a 2.5, Undu gave him a 2.9 recurring. I'm gonna go for 3 purely on the basis of the fact that the lyrical integrity that Dave offers the UK hip hop or UK rap ecosystem is just extremely high. Like, and I think I've personally been following Dave since he was 16, since I first heard that freestyle he did on SBTV, and I was just blown away, and just followed him like Jekyll and Hyde and all of the stuff. And he's from Southwest London like myself, and everything what he says is like, wow, these are experiences that feel relevant to me and understandable to me and what have you. And I think, yeah, his talent, as Undu mentioned, like, you can't, you know, it's without question. And I think maybe because I've been following him for so long, and because I've had such high expectations of him as a result of the lyrical integrity that he's offered the UK, and because he came into the game so young, I was like, well, you can't. His age is both to his. It's both something that aids him, but it's also something to his detriment, because age isn't necessarily a barometer of how far somebody can go at that point in this. Like, we've seen Dizzy Rascal in this UK make a GOAT album that, you know, many people still return to at the age of 16. Nas dropped Illmatic when he was 16 years old. And so to give this like a 4 is an injustice to the integrity of music sonically, because the scaffolding, if you see music as almost like an architectural building, what Dave doesn't know how to do is to house his lyrics within that architectural framework. He doesn't know how to, you know, to apply different flows, apply different bits of concision, apply different bits of like how are you communicating and translating your message across to the listener, both in a way which is sonically pleasing and also engaging, and maybe you can dance to, but retains the lyrical integrity. Every time he's like crazy lyrical, it's like 9 minutes spoken word, a cappella.
Do you know
what I mean?
Do you think that he takes the listener for granted then?
I think what Liam said to me, me and Liam linked up today, and he said something to me that really resonated with me, which is Dave leads with lyricism. He doesn't think about the song. He's like, what can I say that's going to be mad bars? I'm going to bare bars. And then he'll think about the beat,
and the instrumental, like all the sonic elements afterward. It's like, he houses, he's like his lyrics first. It's like, let me just find something to something to couch this in.
Hi, my name is Alrione. I love Dave as an artist, and I've been listening to him since he was doing all his freestyles and stuff. As an artist, I give him a 5, but the album is a 2.5. I don't feel like I feel like what I'm gonna say, everyone's already kind of said it, but it's disappointing for me because first of all, the rap. Oh, I'm not getting into why. Okay, it's a 2.5.
I just got his eye contact. I was like, whoa, let's wrap it up.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Bazoo. It's really difficult. I'd give this album, I guess, a 3.5 to a 4. Like, I love Dave. I'd give him top marks as an artist. I just feel like such an emotional connection with Psychodrama that, like, as soon as I listened to this, I was like always comparing it to that album. And whilst it's like an incredible body of work and it's so varied, I would say I preferred like Psychodrama. One thing about this album, and I was explaining it to my friend next to me, like listening to the lyrics and what he was talking about, I kept asking her, like, is he okay? Like, because like in the intro song, like he mentioned that a young boy had messaged him on Instagram saying that he was thinking about taking his life, and Dave was like saying, me and you, we have the same things, you know, like in common, but, you know, I can't tell you that. And then both sides of a smile, like the ending saying, and like my luck's running out. And it's like, what? Like from the outside, it seems like your luck's, you know, not running out, but I wonder, like, I hope he's, you know, okay and in a right headspace. But it leads you to think about like so many things about him.
So what Dave has done is that he's put himself on the side of being the representative of the black experience in the UK. And my problem with him doing that isn't necessarily him taking that stance, but the fact that there isn't any redemption in his music. I find it quite depressing, you know. And as far as the black experience is concerned, particularly in the UK, I think there's a lot of aspects to it which is there for celebration, but listening to this album, I didn't really get that, which is why, for me, it's a difficult project to go back to, because I would need to really be in a depressive state and want to remain there if I was to go back to the album. And I think there's quite a bit of pandering to the expectation that now people hold of him as being the spokesperson for the black experience, so to speak.
I think my gripe with Dave, and actually, to be honest, is also with music in general, is that, like, you know, I'm slightly older than a lot of maybe younger Dave listeners, people of a similar age to Dave. And for people like myself, the expectation listening to albums isn't that you listen to albums in a kind of like singular format. So you don't just like, oh yeah, I'll give the album a 4 because there's 4 really sick tracks. Like, we're talking about like a 12 to 13, 14, 15 song album. It has to be consistent and cohesive throughout. And if it doesn't hit that, then it doesn't feel like a good body of work. And that's my frustration, is that, like, now when I speak to a lot of younger people, they're like, they say an album's sick because they're, oh yeah, have you heard that song? Well, what about, it's an album. Like, this is your chance, especially when it's your debut or sophomore album, to pour literally the entirety of your life and existence into 10 plus tracks to make sure that it feels cohesive, cogent, consistent throughout the entirety of the project. And that is a gripe for me. Like, we shouldn't be listening to music personally and just picking out tracks and be like, yeah, the album's sick because of that track, because of In the Fire, or because of Red. It's like Kendrick Lamar drops albums that it's like, I'm listening to Cinema. I'm listening to
It's a cinematic
it's a cinematic experience. I'm listening to an opera. This is an operatic experience now. I'm not just listening to one or two tracks. And if we want Dave to be in the higher rankings, which he should be because he has the eloquence, the articulacy, the intelligence in his lexicon, in his the way he pieces together words, to be in that category of a Jay-Z or Kendrick or whatever, then we should
celebrate
we
that.
We should celebrate that, but then compare him against those guys. We shouldn't be like, yeah, he's the best in the UK and there's like 5 tracks on there that I like. So yeah, 4 out of 5.
So just one thing that's come up from both of your comments, I think, is on the expectations of Dave and how the expectations aren't quite kind of coming through in terms of the cohesiveness. But I sometimes wonder if, when artists are kind of put into the category of a conscious rapper or someone who speaks on politics or something like that, they do kind of lose their ability to be able to move out of that lane, which can become critique on them not being cohesive. So what happens when you want to speak on social topics, but you also want to talk about a night out? Like, should those artists be allowed to be like, yes, I speak about politics and I care about this, but I'm also a 23-year-old with a lot of money and I'm having fun?
Yeah.
Like, why is it that we want to stay in one lane only?
That's a really good point. But for me, in exactly what you've just said in terms of like someone who, like, I'm not expecting an artist to just stay in their lane. If they're a conscious rapper, they got to make conscious music. But that deliberation in himself of being a 23-year-old with loads of money, whilst dealing with mental health issues, all of that kind of stuff, for me, that's why I love Gang Signs and Prayer. Because that album, literally, if you listen to it, it's almost like one track, he's talking about this, then the next track is amped, then back to this, mellow. Then like the cohesiveness in the album comes from, and it's literally called Gang Signs and Prayer. Like everything in that album, you have to listen to it from start to finish. Like, and it literally portrays the message that you're saying, where he can make Bad Boys, and then he can make Blinded by Your Grace next. And that's not a problem because it fits in the album. But the thing with Dave is like, he's trying to do it with a concept. So in Psychodrama, the concept was the therapist, but all the therapist was what's his name? Fraser T. Smith talking every 3 songs. And then the song that followed was a bit relevant. Like, I think one of the skits was like, have you ever met someone, da-da-da-da. And then the next tune, he was talking about meeting someone on a train. But that was literally the link. That was literally the only link. And I think that's what we're saying. It's not necessarily he needs to stay in his lane of consciousness. It's if you are going to make a conceptual album, make the concept, but make it throughout the entire album. And on your point, Jordan, you made a really good point about the kind of like black experience and the kind of depressive nature. I think why it's easy to label that on Dave is because as most of us are black, yeah. Ultimately, we don't need to be reminded of the depressive nature all the time. And like, I had this problem when he made Black because I thought it was quite, I mean, I celebrated it, of course, but it was quite a reductive song. Like, some of the lyrics were a bit like, if you're like a white person that doesn't understand necessarily what it means to be black, you listen to that song at the Brits and you're like, black is growing up outside the corner shop. Like, ultimately, yeah, there are more things, but I think you have to, if you are going to play that role in some capacity, you have to be a bit more cautious with some of the messaging that you come with, in my opinion.
This is all kind of crazy to me because I've never been to an event like this, and actually, because I just know that music is so subjective, it's about whatever you like, and we're all going to have our different opinions on it. I've never really like listened to other people's opinion about music. I just don't usually do it. So this is very interesting. But from Santan, I'm getting a lot of damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of vibes. Because with him, like, for example, with Psychodrama, and everyone's talking about like a recurring theme. Obviously, that had, I thought it had like a very, very strong theme. And I enjoyed it. And then everybody around me, non-Dave fans that I was, hearing from, were talking about how depressing it was and how, yeah, he had a really strong theme and we don't want to hear that all the time. And what about if we want songs that we can dance to and da-da-da-da-da. And then he gives us an album like this where we have our systems, and he taps into Afro beats, which I hugely appreciate because he's he's a Nigerian man, so he taps into that side of his culture. And then he has songs that are more dancey, and then he has Clash, and now we're saying, oh, but now there's not a theme, and why do we have all of this stuff? And why, if he's trying to have a theme, why can we dance in his songs? I'm just like, oh, I've heard like two sides. I'm hearing everybody say, it's just like a jumble for me. And I just feel like, I think he's even said in one interview sometime kind of recently that he listened to feedback. He listened to everybody saying, you're so monotone, you Psychodrama was very monotone. Of course, that's his like body of work. He loves it. But he changed things for this album. Like, we can see a change. There are more dancey songs. And now people are kind of like, oh, why is that there? It's hard. Because, everyone's just got different opinions. So it's just crazy. How do you home it in and make something?
I definitely agree with you. Like, I think from a musical standpoint, I think he's actually improved since Psychodrama. But at the same time, I think as far as the experience of his music is concerned, it still feels quite templated in the sense of 16 bars, chorus, 16 bars, chorus. And regardless of what beat is playing in behind these bars, there's still that kind of, that element of roboticness, which is different, which is obviously different when you listen to other artists, whereas there's a lot more, I guess, flow to their musical compositions,
I was just gonna say earlier, there was a mention of the fact that Dave's age is not an excuse for what we expect of him, and there was also mention of the fact that if he's been branded as a conscious rapper, he's somehow bottlenecked or boxed in his creativity. I don't necessarily agree, because I feel like as a 23-year-old black man who has a lot of money, he can get his message across really well without sacrificing the beauty of the music that comes with it. Like, somebody like a J-Hus for me is someone that I feel has been able to convey the struggle that he goes through, but still make it very pleasing to the ear.
Yeah.
And I feel like with an album like Big Conspiracy, that album was you listen to it all the way through.
yeah. So that's a great body of work.
And so I feel like Dave has the intelligence and the genius to do something like that. I just feel like maybe he doesn't apply himself hard enough, or he hasn't looked at the right models to do that the right way. And I feel like it's time for him to go back to the drawing boards and just take the time out. I feel like, what was it? Psychodrama was 2019, right?
Yeah.
2019.
2019, yeah.
2019. With this pandemic, I feel like he shouldn't have released music now. I feel like he should have just taken more time and just really hone on this concept. The music, the lyricism is there. I don't think I have some grasp with his lyricism, because I feel like in the filler parts, he does go the formulaic part. He tried to just put something in there so that it fits the space. But when he really is passionate about the content, it's just flawless. Like, it's just amazing. And I feel like he needs to be a bit more concise in his delivery, but really honing on that concept, because once he gets that concept right, he will easily be hanging out with the greats.
I think though, like from like a conceptual standpoint, I know that he's been put under some criticism for it today, but for me, it's the actual concept itself which really saves this album. The reason why I say that is because as far as the prevailing themes throughout the album, what I got from it was accountability, and I think that kind of draws back into the actual title of the album itself, which is "We're All Alone in This Together," which is essentially saying that whatever it is you're going through, or wherever it is that you are, you need to deal with that. And I thought that skit on Three Rivers was very interesting, when you have the guy talking about being in a river and the tide is just coming against him. And regardless of what he does or how differently he swims to the tide, it's a thing where the tide just keeps on coming back harder and harder until he realizes, wait 1 second, I'm trying to adapt myself in a system or a society which isn't gonna see anything redeeming about me anyway. You know, I need to be going into places where I'm celebrated rather than forcing myself in places where I'm tolerated at the very least. And I thought that concept itself, at least for me, was very strong, but the musical execution of it was quite wanting, you know.
I kind of agree with that because to be fair, I feel like the thing with Dave is like all of us or most of us have said before, his lyricism is undisputed, but it's his artistry and specifically the creativity in his artistry is something that is not as strong as it should be. I feel like he's one of those artists that you can. You can do this with every artist pretty much, but I feel like he's one of those ones you can actually see an artist like growing in his work.
The point I wanted to make about Dave is that even though I was kind of slandering him earlier with like the stripped back beats and everything, like how it's almost a cappella, I do really, really rate how vulnerable he is in his music. Like to share your feelings to that level to just another person is like a big deal, especially for guys. So for him to share that and to be that vulnerable and to share like really personal stories with everyone is a really big deal, and I respect it. I think people are letting him off the hook, like as you were saying earlier, like giving him a 4 out of 5 for this personally, because you see that vulnerability in his art, you see how thoughtful he is with trying to like put something together. He can really create something really great and meaningful, but you can't give him a 4 for this, in my opinion. You can see what he goes on to create and give that the 4 to 5.
I wanted to say something because I was one of the people that gave him 4 out of 5. I don't know if anyone like here does music or is in the music industry. Is anyone? Yeah, but like I'm not, but I've got plenty of friends that are, and it's especially in the UK, it's really hard to kind of get that opportunity. And like for example, like Little Sims, like I love her, but like she's not as big as Dave, and the reason is I feel like things are censored. A lot of things are censored, especially in the UK. I also noticed that lots of people comparing it to American artists like Kendrick, like Jay-Z, about the coherency. But I feel like once you kind of get opportunity in the UK, you kind of take it. And you don't know when you're going to fall off. How many UK artists have fallen off? You never hear of them again. So when you kind of get that opportunity, I feel like that's what he's doing. I feel like if he was in a more comfortable stage, you would see that coherency. You'd see like the consistency and everything. But that's just my personal point of view, because I do like coherency in albums, like Notorious B.I.G., his Ready to Die album, like, you know, those sort of things. So I kind of separate albums and I can see it differently, but I feel like, he's kind of got an opportunity and he's using that. And I feel like when there's comfortability in his status, you'd probably see a more coherent and a more better album from him. But yeah.
I definitely don't look at albums or into albums as critically as I think some people do here. I let my my spirit just like what it likes, you know. It's a matter of opinion, but I think we have to be very careful with slandering people for giving people higher ratings than and other people not higher ratings, because it's not personal, but it's just like you like what you like. So I'll never say, oh, you should have given it higher, same way you shouldn't tell me to give it lower, because I like what I like. And I just want to say, I feel like the age thing is so significant to anybody who's saying it isn't. And if you're trying to say that Dave's had his 9 years already, because he started when he was 13 years old, in my opinion, rubbish. Because with age comes maturity, and if you guys want all this cohesiveness in an album, then you're gonna have to let this guy have more life experience, because that's where you get your topics from. You know, he talks about his real life. This is real rap for him. So you're gonna have to let him like gain some more experience, so he can talk about more things. If you want deeper, if you want it to be more cohesive, so age does matter 100%. And I feel like maybe we're not being too lenient. I think we're being very, very harsh. So I feel like everybody just needs to remember, you know, like, yeah, we're all gonna grow. We're gonna be better. Like, you know, chill out a little bit. But yeah, he was next?
Kind of said what I was going to say anyways.
Popping babies.
You kind of said what I was going to say. I think that just in your point was really interesting. I think you spoke about Lil Sims. I think also a barrier to that as well is the fact that it's a woman. Like Dave, he's 100% not had anything handed to him. Like, I'll be clear about that. But he is fortunate enough to be in a circle of very successful male UK rap artists. And I think that because he's therefore got that platform, that he kind of can't wait for comfort. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously going to be tension or a level of discomfort currently right now being a black male female in the music industry, in any industry. But I think it just reminds me, I know I keep talking about teaching, but it just reminds me of my students. Like, when he made Black, it just reminds me of like a 16-year-old who's like, oh yeah, and then the electricity ran out on the key and my mum had to run to go and top it up, and like, that's my experience of being black. And I'm like, I'm a 28-year-old, and let me tell you a different experience, you know? And like, the problem is that Dave has a platform of someone, he not that it's not a platform of someone far beyond his years, but I think we have put years on Dave, especially because of the things that he talks about. He talks about things like you said, Liam, that even a 50-year-old man would struggle to articulate throughout their whole life, and he does. So then he just really needs to take that time. I want to give Dave time, and I want to give Dave a chance, because like I said, I'm rooting for him. I think he's so capable of making a fantastic album, like an album I'll listen to for 10 years. But currently this album isn't one, because it's just all over the place. It's mixed messages. He hasn't given himself time to iron out what it is that he wants to say. And unfortunately, people are listening. And like, yeah, it's fine for people to say, you know, I love Dave, I like that tune and this, that and the other, and he talks about this. But if you are looking at it from a critical musical perspective, you will want more. And I think Dave wants that for himself.
I think it's in human nature though to weigh people up against the expectation of that is accorded to them by the talent that we attribute to them. Yeah. I think like if you go back to school, if you're a teacher who knows that a kid is far more capable of a C, you're going to be harder than them. If they're like, oh, miss, I got a C. Like, but if the next kid gets a C, like, fucking hell, well done. And I think, you know,
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, you know, and I do that. Like if you know, Tion Wayne's recent, as I just dropped an album, Green with Envy. I'm not expecting much from Tion Wayne. So when I heard it, I was like, this is good. I was like, yo, this is good. I can rock with this. Pot of Paper, like, you know, Blade Brown, all of these guys that I it's not only just the level of expectation, but also the type of music that they do, that you know that there's kind of ceilings or limitations that you place on where that type of art can go. Yeah. So with a Pot of Paper or a Blade Brown, and has gone to historically, you're kind of like, this is great street rap, you know? But then when you know that Dave is capable of street, conscious, political, emotional, romantic, it's like, this is not just great street rap. This is a kid who has the potential for genius. Yeah. Until you mark them harsher when you give them the exam paper. Yeah. And so I think weighed up against that, my frustration with Dave is that he sets, you know, in spite of the age things, I think we've got to make a great point. Yes, he's growing, he's developing, he's maturing. But Dave sets up very ambitious concepts. The first concept is it's not just therapy, this is psychodramatic therapy. If anybody understands psychodrama, it's literally playing out the experiences in your life to a counselor or counseling therapist in order to better understand those experiences. So that concept in itself, to say, do you know what, guys, I'm going to do a psychodrama as a concept, you better fucking bring it. Because Tion Wayne just saying, yeah, green with envy, let's just... I'm from Edmonton, let's just green. Like, he's not saying I'm going to do an album based on quantum physics. The green book or the greenhouse gases or... Yeah. You know, pot of paper, blade, but they're not coming with very sophisticated, high-level concepts. As a setup for, so when you set things up like that, you're gonna pique people's interest, and if you pique people's interest here and you deliver here, I'm gonna be on your neck.
Really good
and I
point.
think that's where I'm at with Dave. He's obviously got many years to go. He's maturing, all that kind of stuff, and I accept that, and I appreciate him for where he's at in his career now. But if you place somebody with the likes of a Nas or a Jay-Z and so on and so forth, because you know that they're capable of that peak.
Yeah.
You know what comes as a, you know, as a
consequence of that.
As a consequence of that.
I think we need to end it there for timing. Sorry. We have the venue for maybe another hour. So if you don't want to chill, talk, eat, drink, listen to some music, you're more than welcome. But if you need to go, well, see you next time. Okay, man, take care.